Well, it is Thursday, and I am back in the office. I was in Cape May County, New Jersey this morning representing a client, and I was there actually all day. Just got back in the office in Morristown, New Jersey. Tomorrow is Friday, and we're coming out with a weekly update tomorrow, which goes out to over 4,000 of our current and former clients in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. One of the articles that I have in the e-update is an article focused on New Orleans Saints running back Alvin Kamara. Mr. Kamara he pled no contest to a charge in Nevada, a disturbing the peace charge, and it was downgraded from a felony charge. Now, in this particular instance, he was indicted on a criminal conduct charge. And again, it was downgraded pursuant to a plea agreement. He pled no contest because there was later a civil settlement. Now, as I've advised clients in the past, one of the reasons why a person would plead no contest is because the attorneys working together, the criminal defense lawyer and the civil lawyer, really want to put the case in the best possible position. So by pleading no contest as opposed to pleading guilty, you're not actually taking responsibility for what occurred. You're simply letting the court make a finding of fact and not disputing what was alleged by the prosecution. So in this particular situation, Mr. Kamara is not taking responsibility, and the civil plaintiff lawyer can't use that in a potential civil trial against him. Now, in this particular case, it's my understanding that he did settle the case for an undisclosed amount. But one of the things that he's doing now is speaking to allegedly the NFL commissioner or the NFL staff about what occurred. And people have asked, well, why has he waited so long? This happened last year. Why didn't he speak to the NFL officials immediately? Now, the thing is, it's important to understand that any conversation that you make regarding allegations, it is not privileged communication if it is made to someone other than your lawyer. All communications with attorneys are privileged, unlike other communications, including the NFL officials. Now, I know people believe that Roger Goodell or the other officers of the NFL have this special power, and they do with regards to the National Football League. But when it comes to, I guess, the real world, if you will, real court, that conversation in Mr. Goodell's office or whoever that Alvin Kamara has the conversation with, that's not privileged communication. So had he spoken to the NFL prior to that case being resolved, the prosecutors in Nevada could have used those conversations against him. And also the civil lawyers could have also used that conversation against him in a civil courtroom. Now, remember that in a criminal courtroom, the standard is guilty on reasonable doubt, whereas in a civil courtroom, it is preponderance. So the burden of proof is much higher in a criminal courtroom than it is in a civil room, but it's important to understand that the burden is on the plaintiff in a civil case, and the burden is on the prosecution, aka the Commonwealth if you're in Pennsylvania, or aka the state if you're in a state like New Jersey. So keep in the back of your mind, you don't want to admit to anything, even if your employer, for instance, if you're charged with something and it has to do with somehow your employment. Again, your employer may threaten you with suspension or even termination, but if you're facing criminal charges, in my opinion, your liberty is more important, especially if there's serious criminal charges. In this situation, Mr. Kamara was indicted on felony charges, and while members of the sports media believed he could have faced possibly prison, I doubt that very much. More than likely, if he was convicted, I would like to believe that he probably would have received probation, but he still would have had a felony conviction. I don't know exactly what occurred, but it's my understanding that no one was seriously injured. And based on my experience, even if you're charged with something serious like a felony assault, typically there's a lot your attorney can do in terms of mitigation that will keep you out of a state prison sentence. You're looking more like house arrest. The sentencing guidelines in various states would call for house arrest, even for something serious like that, provided the person doesn't have, really serious bodily injuries. I'm not talking about a situation where a person almost dies. Obviously, it's a different situation where you're facing more serious allegations. But again, in this situation, I believe that Mr. Kamara, through his attorneys, made the right decision. both in terms of what to do with the NFL and making a statement, and the authorities in terms of pleading no contest as opposed to pleading guilty. It protected him both in the criminal context and in the civil context. The only thing that his attorneys could not do in terms of mitigation was argue that accepting responsibility is one of the primary arguments we always use when we're negotiating a guilty plea, the fact that the person's accepting responsibility and even sometimes offering a formal apology to the victim in the case. Now, it's my understanding that in this case, he was sentenced to community service, so that the penalty wasn't that heavy, and he's paying the victim's medical bills, which total about $100,000 or so. So again, he makes a very good living as an NFL player, and I'm sure that $100,000 to the average person is a lot of money, obviously, but to Mr. Kamara, I'm sure that he does very well in the NFL, and in the grand scheme of things, it's probably a small portion of his salary. So once again, if you have questions, 215-755-9000 in Pennsylvania, 856-793-7429 in New Jersey, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, website gambleinlaw.com. As always, a tremendous resource for you and your family. All of my books, my blogs, my videos are available there in one convenient format. In addition, we have our podcast. I'm coming out with some new episodes. I've been kind of putting things on the back burner with regards to the podcast, but we hope to have some new episodes, some great people on our podcast. Tomorrow, the weekly update, you'll see it tomorrow. If you're not signed up for it, you can do so at gambleinlaw.com. I'm going to provide links to the latest blogs that I've done on the Kamara situation, as well as a blog that I did on Jersey Shore and guns at the Jersey Shore and guns coming in from Pennsylvania at the Jersey Shore. A very, very informative article that you should read, especially if you own a house at the Jersey Shore. So once again, 215-755-9000 in Pennsylvania, 856-793-7429 in New Jersey, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Have a great Thursday, and I'll talk to you all very soon.